The morning started like every other. Greasy plates, lukewarm coffee, and the steady buzz of tired conversation filled the tiny diner on the edge of Flatbush Avenue. Leah Monroe moved through the clatter and chaos like a shadow. At 25, she had mastered the art of invisibility. Customers rarely remembered her name. Some didn't look up at all when they ordered. She didn't mind. Quiet meant safe. But that morning, something was different. A black car idled outside, sleek, expensive, definitely not local. Moments later, a man walked in who didn't belong. He wore tailored slacks, a crisp navy suit, and sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. His presence made the air shift. Behind him, a woman entered. She didn't just walk, she glided, like she expected the world to part for her. Leah recognized them immediately, though she'd only ever seen them on screens. Victor Hartley, the elusive tech billionaire who never did interviews, and Elizabeth Hartley, his stunning, high society wife known for her icy poise and fashion empire. They took a booth in the far corner, the one with a broken speaker above it that buzzed faintly when no one was talking. Leah moved to serve them, notebook in hand, pretending her hands weren't shaking. She kept her head down, polite, detached, but as she stepped away to grab their order, she heard it. Low voices, tense, hushed. Then one sentence stopped her cold. "If you don't die in that car tonight, Victor, I swear I'll make it look like an accident at the lake house." Leah froze. Elizabeth's voice was silky, venom-laced. She stirred her tea like she'd just commented on the weather. Victor didn't respond right away. He just looked at her with this hollow, tired expression. And then, "I trusted you," he said. "That was your first mistake," she replied. Leah backed away before they noticed her. Her chest tightened, her pulse thundered in her ears. This wasn't drama, this wasn't gossip, it was a threat. She could have walked away, she should have. But as Victor stood and reached for his phone, Leah did something reckless. She stepped closer. Just as he passed her on the way out, she whispered, voice barely audible over the clinking of cutlery, "Don't get in the car, your wife wants to kill you." Victor stopped, turned, looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. Then he blinked, shook his head, and left. Leah stood still, heart pounding so loud she thought the whole diner could hear it. She waited for a scene, for someone to shout, for Elizabeth to come back and drag her outside. Nothing happened. Not that morning. But the next one? 3 men in black suits stood across from her apartment building at 6 a.m., and they were not there for breakfast. Leah barely slept that night. Her body ached from the shift, but her mind wouldn't let her rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Elizabeth's face, perfect, cold, and deadly. And Victor's, blank, distant, like he'd already given up. What she had done was stupid. One whispered sentence could have made her the target of the wrong kind of attention. She wasn't a hero. She was a waitress with overdue rent, a broken phone, and a fridge with more empty space than food. Still, when the morning sun broke over the rooftops of Brooklyn, she got dressed like it was just another day. She pulled on her faded jeans, threw her apron into her tote, and shoved her door open. Then she stopped. Across the street, a black SUV idled, engine purring like a quiet threat. 3 men stood near it, dressed in matching black suits and sunglasses despite the low morning light. They weren't talking. They weren't looking at their phones. They were looking at her. Leah's stomach dropped. She closed the door slowly, hand trembling as she clicked the deadbolt back into place. Her breathing was shallow. Her brain raced to make sense of it. Maybe they weren't there for her. Maybe they were just neighbors, government workers, a funeral. She wasn't stupid. She had felt invisible her entire life, and now suddenly 3 suits were watching her like she mattered. Her phone buzzed. A single text lit the cracked screen. "Unknown. You shouldn't have spoken." Leah dropped the phone like it burned. Her legs buckled, and she sank to the floor, hands pressed hard against her temples. What had she stepped into? It wasn't just a wealthy couple arguing. This was something bigger. She turned the TV on, needing noise, distraction, anything. But then her breath caught again. On the local news station, a headline crawled across the bottom of the screen. Victor Hartley cancels trip after security incident. The anchor continued. Sources close to the billionaire say his plans were abruptly changed due to a credible threat. Details are scarce, but this comes just days before his company's high-profile tech acquisition in Dubai. So he listened, Laya thought. He didn't get in the car. She should have felt relieved, but instead, dread settled deeper into her gut. She'd stopped the murder, but now she was a problem, a witness, a variable. The men in black suits didn't approach her that day. They didn't need to. Their presence said it all. We see you. We know who you are. And we're not done yet. She stayed inside, curtains drawn, lights off. Her roommate, Tasha, texted to ask if she was okay. Laya didn't reply. She didn't want Tasha involved. As the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long across the street, Laya opened her old laptop, heart racing. If she was going to survive this, she needed answers. Who was Elizabeth Hartley, really? And what exactly had Leia stepped into? She started digging, and what she found made her blood run cold. Laya's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Her internet was slow, her laptop older than some of her socks, but adrenaline made her sharp, focused. She started simple. Elizabeth Hartley biography. Glamorous headlines filled the screen. Red carpet photos, charity galas, fluff pieces on her fashion brand. None of it felt real. It was too clean. She dug deeper, searched public records, then forums, then gossip blogs, the kind with blurry photos and unconfirmed sources. That's where the cracks began to show. Whispers of offshore dealings, of undisclosed property purchases. And most alarming of all, Hartley family linked to hidden crime syndicate via deceased patriarch Charles Hartley, Victor's father. A man Laya barely remembered from her childhood, other than a vague memory of hearing about his death on the news, heart attack during a vacation in Sardinia. But the deeper she read, the more it didn't add up. Multiple reports claimed Charles had been under federal investigation before his sudden death. Money laundering, black market patents, even links to missing persons cases tied to whistleblowers. And Victor? He had inherited everything. Laya leaned back, stunned. Victor wasn't just a tech billionaire. He had inherited an empire built on corruption and secrets. Maybe he hadn't asked for it, but it was his. And Elizabeth? If the theories were true, she had married into that power, and now she wanted all of it. That's when Laya noticed something strange, a comment on an obscure blog post about Elizabeth's fashion company. This brand is just a front. She's the real brain behind the Hartley laundering pipeline. Victor is just a figurehead. Elizabeth pulls the strings now. Ask what happened to Andre Bloom. Laya copied the name, Andre Bloom. A few minutes later, her screen filled with results, most behind paywalls or dead links, but one article still worked. Dated 2 years ago. Headline, Bloom Robotics, CTO found dead. In apartment, ruled suicide, but questions remain. The article said Andre had once worked for Victor's tech company, but months before his death, he tried to expose illegal data mining and off-the-books security contracts tied to international deals. The article was pulled from major outlets within days of publishing. No follow-up, no investigation, just silence. Laya swallowed hard. This wasn't about jealousy or love gone wrong. This was a takeover. Elizabeth wasn't just angry. She was eliminating anyone who stood in her way. If she killed Victor, she'd inherit his entire empire. With the right lawyers and the Hartley name, she'd walk away clean. And now, Laya knew. The glowing laptop screen reflected in her wide eyes. Outside, the black SUV was gone. But the silence didn't feel like relief. It felt like retreat, like something was coming. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. A video file this time. Hands shaking, Laya clicked it open. A grainy clip played, security footage from an alley. It showed her stepping out of the diner, Victor brushing past. Then it froze, right on the moment she whispered in his ear. Then a distorted voice came through. We saw what you did. You've made yourself a problem. Problems get fixed. The video ended. Laya stared at the screen, ice sliding down her spine. Whatever this was, it wasn't just dangerous, it was lethal, and she was in the middle of it. By the next morning, Laya had packed a small backpack with the essentials: cash, a burner phone she bought from a 24-hour corner store, a hoodie, and the knife she kept hidden in her kitchen drawer, just in case. She figured this counted as a case. The video had shattered any illusion she had of staying out of it. Someone had hacked into the diner's security system. That wasn't something jealous spouses or gossip-hungry journalists did. This was professional. She needed help. But who do you call when the people chasing you probably have police in their pocket? Laya ducked out through the building's back stairwell. She didn't use the front door, couldn't risk being seen again. The city felt different now. Every face on the street looked suspicious. Every passing car made her flinch. She remembered the name from the article, Andre Bloom. There had to be someone who had known him, worked with him, trusted him. Someone who'd believe her. She spent the day in an underground internet cafe in Chinatown, bouncing between forums and old tech journalism blogs, finally finding a clue. Elise Yarrow, a former cybersecurity consultant who had worked with Bloom. Fired after he died, disappeared from the public eye. But Laya found her, sort of. A blurry Reddit post mentioned Elise now volunteered at a community center in Queens, teaching coding to kids. Laya took the risk. She rode 3 subway lines, keeping her head down, double-checking every platform. When she finally arrived, the center looked harmless. Murals, kids chasing each other in the yard, laughter. She walked in and asked for Elise. The woman who appeared wasn't what Laya expected. Late 30s, tired eyes, plain sweater. She looked like someone's overworked big sister, not a former whistleblower in hiding. "You're being followed," Elise said before Laya even opened her mouth. Laya froze. "How do you know?" "Because I've been watching you since you accessed that Bloom file." Elise's eyes were sharp now. "You triggered a trace. Whoever's running the Hartley backend knows you're digging." Laya pulled out the burner phone. "I need to expose this. Elizabeth Hartley is planning to kill her husband and take over his empire. It's all connected to Charles Hartley's old syndicate. There's a whole network and—" "I know," Elise interrupted quietly. "I've known for years." Then she nodded toward a back room. "Come with me." Inside, the walls were lined with old servers, cables, and boxes of hard drives. A dusty corkboard displayed printed emails, maps, notes. All of it pointed to the same thing: the Hartley Syndicate, a spiderweb of shell companies, political favors, and dead ends. "I've kept this hidden," Elise said, "because people like us don't survive when we speak up. But if you really want to blow this open, you'll need proof." She handed Laya a small black journal. "And you're lucky, because Bloom kept everything. And Victor, he knows more than he lets on. He just doesn't know who to trust." A knock rang through the building. Laya and Elise locked eyes. Then a voice called from the entrance. "Laya Monroe, are you here?" It was him, Victor Hartley. Laya's breath caught in her throat. For a second, she thought she was hallucinating, but then Victor Hartley stepped into the hallway of the community center, looking even more out of place than the first time she saw him in the diner. He was dressed down, no suit, no tie, just a gray hoodie and jeans, but the guarded expression was the same. Behind him stood no security, no driver, just a billionaire with shadows under his eyes and secrets weighing him down. "Are you alone?" Elise asked sharply. Victor's eyes flicked to her. "Yes, I came through the back. I know what I'm walking into." Laya stepped forward, fists clenched. "You think you know. You dismissed me when I tried to save your life. And now men in black suits are stalking my building." Victor looked at her, not through her, but at her. "I didn't dismiss you. I didn't believe you. That was my mistake." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. "I've been collecting things, quietly, records, accounts, transfers. I know Elizabeth's been laundering money through shell corporations. I just didn't want to admit where it all came from." Laya narrowed her eyes. "Your father." Victor nodded slowly. The syndicate didn't die with him. It adapted. Elizabeth, she's not just continuing it, she's making it bigger, leaner, more dangerous. Elise crossed her arms. Then why come here? Why now? Because someone leaked a report yesterday. Someone in my inner circle. And that someone wasn't you two. It was her. Elizabeth wanted me to see it. She wanted me scared. She wants me dead, but not before I sign off on a deal she needs. What kind of deal? Laya asked. Victor hesitated. A merger that'll give her controlling interest in my international contracts, most of which are, let's say, not exactly clean. She's going to kill you afterward, Elise said flatly. I know, Victor replied. For a moment, none of them spoke. The air felt heavy with unsaid truths. Laya stepped forward. Then why are you just letting this happen? You're Victor Hartley. You could expose everything, go public, and crash every company I've ever touched. Thousands would lose their jobs. Stockholders would riot. The board would bury me before Elizabeth ever got the chance. Elise sighed. Then we take it to someone who can't be bought. Victor shook his head. There is no one. No, Laya said softly. There's us. Victor looked at her. You're not the only one who's tired of being controlled, she said. I was invisible before this. But now, they see me. They're afraid of what I know. Let's give them a reason to be. Victor's jaw clenched. For the first time, his mask cracked. If we do this, there's no going back. There never was, Elise said, sliding Bloom's journal across the table. And we have everything we need. Victor picked up the journal. His eyes scanned a few pages, then froze. There, tucked into the back, was a hand-drawn diagram, labeled coordinates, names, and one phrase circled in red: private airstrip, 72 hours. Final transfer. Victor looked up. Elizabeth's leaving. With everything. Laya stepped forward. Then we meet her there. The private airstrip was tucked deep in the pine-covered outskirts north of Manhattan, surrounded by miles of empty land and silence. It didn't appear on public maps. No signs, no fences, just a smooth stretch of runway, a hangar, and a single white jet waiting with engines humming. Laya crouched in the back seat of Victor's second unregistered SUV, heart thudding like a drumbeat in her ears. Her palms were sweating. Elise was in the front, scanning radio signals with a handheld jammer. Victor sat silently, staring at the jet with haunted eyes. She's already here, he said quietly. She never leaves anything to chance. They all knew the stakes. Elizabeth wasn't just trying to escape. She was finalizing a deal that would transfer over $90 billion in assets through offshore ghost accounts, tied to companies connected to arms deals, political blackmail, and the Hartley legacy of corruption. Victor had signed the documents 2 days ago under pressure. All she needed now was to flee and disappear forever. Are you ready? Laya asked, gripping the flash drive in her pocket. Victor didn't respond at first, then he nodded once. Let's end it. They moved fast. Elise disabled the external security cameras using the jammer. Victor stepped out of the car, holding his hands high so Elizabeth would think he came alone. Laya followed 5 paces behind, staying in the shadows. Inside the hangar, Elizabeth stood with 2 bodyguards and a sleek man in a navy suit, her legal counsel probably. She looked radiant, unbothered. Her black trench coat fluttered in the wind, and a smile played at the corner of her lips. Darling, she said to Victor, I didn't think you'd come to say goodbye. Victor walked up slowly. I'm not here to stop you, he said, just to see you off. Elizabeth's eyes narrowed. But I brought a gift, he added. That's when Laya stepped forward, holding the flash drive in the air. The bodyguards tensed, but Elizabeth raised a hand. Well, well, the waitress. You're a persistent little ghost. Laya met her eyes without flinching. You made me visible. That was your mistake. Victor threw the black journal down at her feet. We know everything. Offshore accounts, syndicate ties, the hits ordered. including Andre Bloom. Elizabeth's smile didn't fade. You have no idea how many people I own. Not anymore, Elise said, stepping in and tossing a phone onto the ground. On the screen, a live stream was broadcasting to 3 secure channels, one to the DOJ, one to an international investigative network, and one to the public dark web. Everything was already out there. Elizabeth's face darkened. You'll regret this. No, Victor said. I already regret what I allowed to happen. The bodyguards moved, but too late. Within seconds, black SUVs appeared at the far edge of the airstrip. Armed federal agents poured out. The hangar was surrounded. Victor turned away. Elizabeth's lawyer vanished into the shadows. And Elizabeth? She stood still, calm, as handcuffs slid over her wrists. You don't win, she whispered to Victor. I never wanted to, he replied. I just wanted it to stop. A week later, the story broke. Billionaire's wife arrested in global criminal sting. Anonymous whistleblower exposes Hartley syndicate. Victor Hartley gave an official statement, but never named Laya. She watched it on a cracked TV in her apartment. Then packed her things. Victor offered her money. Millions. She refused. I don't want blood money, she told him. I want peace. He nodded, not arguing. She left the city that night, riding the 2 a.m. train north, disappearing into freedom. No headlines, no farewell. Just a girl who once lived in the shadows and chose to become the light.